Good evening, everybody. Welcome back for another edition of Reasonable Doubt, brought to you by the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. I'm your host, Jimmy Ardwan, and alongside me, as always, my trusty co-host, Julio Vela. You're back?
Anytime that I see cufflinks like that,
I'm ready, dude.
you are on top.
I am.
Get on top.
I'm ready for game weekend.
That is.
You know, the Cowboys are going to be wearing their Barry Sanders throwback uniforms.
Are they?
I don't think it's going to help them.
So I went to.
We got our Stormtrooper ice uniforms on.
I can't wait.
I'm ready.
Can't wait to win.
Yeah, exactly. I think both of these guys want to win tonight.
When we're surrounded with a table of winners, we all win, man.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have joining us for the race in the 230th District Court of Harris County, we have the incumbent, Brad Hart. How are you, Brad?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Good. We're great. Glad to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
We also welcome back to the program the challenger, Chris Morton.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Good to have you back as well. So this is the first show that we've actually got both sides of the ticket on, I think, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, at the same time. At the same time, we've had
right
where one candidate has appeared by themselves, the other side has appeared as well. But y'all get to be the first ones to appear together on the show.
Did y'all not get the contracts worked out? Both there at the same time?
No,
is that what the deal was?
There was a lot of disputes. Some people wanted their craft services agreements that they wanted. You know.
Sorry about that, Jimmy.
I know. we couldn't provide their riders that they wanted in time, and a lot of people were making requests for Twizzlers and other things that we just couldn't get. But we'll be here for the next hour talking with both Judge Hart and Chris Morton. And if you want to join in the conversation, 713-807-1794 is the number for any questions and comments. We'll also have Twitter on, so you can hit me up right here at HCCLA_TV. You know, why don't we just start with a real brief introduction? And I guess since you hold the bench, we'll let you go first.
Okay.
Since you hold the title, so to speak.
The title? Okay. Y'all are really making this like Michael Buffer, you know.
I know,
Vegas,
right?
Vegas style fight.
We're trying to build it up.
Yeah. Well, for those who don't know or haven't seen me on the show before, my name's Brad Hart. I'm the judge of the 230th Criminal District Court, and obviously the Republican nominee to as the incumbent to remain on that bench. A little bit about the background. Went to undergrad at Baylor. I know y'all were just talking about UT. Baylor's playing tonight. I didn't know that I didn't realize that when I agreed to be on, although I think we're getting killed. So, you know, maybe it's better that I'm here instead of watching that. Went to law school, South Texas College of Law. Went straight to work at the DA's office here in Harris County in 1997. Was a prosecutor for 16 years there, appointed in January of 2013 by Governor Perry to fulfill the remaining term of the 230th when Belinda Hill left, and then won re-election in 2014. That term is about to be up. We'll see if we get another.
And here you are. And Chris, a little bit about you.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's really good to be back. First off, happy birthday to my dad. He just drove into Houston.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Yeah, he's going to be here
awesome.
For the election, he and my mom. So
that's exciting.
They'll either be celebrating with me or drying my tears. So we'll see how that goes. A little bit about me. I'm originally from North Carolina. Moved here to Houston in 2004. I had gone to University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Went to work in a manufacturing company. But then in the early 2000s, myself and several hundred of my closest friends were laid off one day with a dot-com bust. That sent me searching for something else to do with my life. I ended up here going to law school at the University of Houston.
GTT, gone to Texas.
Yeah.
Pick up and leave.
Well, I was told that if you wanted to be a trial lawyer, you came to Texas.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm here. You know, I met my wife in law school, joined the DA's office while in law school as a paid intern in post-conviction writs.
That's the only place in there they pay you.
I don't even know if
For
they
the
pay
interns,
you
you only get
anymore.
paid on the writs. That's my understanding of. I mean, that's my understanding.
I tell you what, that was more of an education in the law, or at least criminal law, than what I got in law school, because you're seeing the full length and breadth of a criminal case from the time the arrest is made on through the end of the appeal. So I learned a great deal there, but decided that that's what I wanted to do. Stayed on there, became a prosecutor, spent the first half of my law career there. Then I joined you guys on the other side as a criminal defense attorney. I've been doing that for the last 5+ years.
How long were you a prosecutor?
I was there for just under 5 years.
I remember when you were a prosecutor, man. I remember, it was good, you did great.
Okay,
It was awesome,
okay.
yeah, you were above the board, no issues. I remember when you left, I was quite surprised.
Yeah, my first son was born, and I wanted to see him. And when you're a prosecutor, a line prosecutor, you're working 14 hours a day, and he was just so cute that I wanted to spend more time with him. So I decided to go out to try to make a little more money.
Because he looked like you, right?
Actually, he looks like he looks like my wife. Thanks, Judge. I appreciate that. But it's true. It is true. He looks like my wife.
That might be about the biggest insult we might have for you.
Did you see me with Dan Simons, though?
I know. This is,
That was a good one. I did see
this
that.
is about the most frenemy we're going to get here, I think.
Oh, no, Josh Hill and Kristen Guinea are coming in.
That's true. That's true. That's next week, so that one might be as well. But and turning to the race itself, obviously this is the last year of straight ticket voting, and I know that we often talk about voting the person, not the party. And that's a theme that goes throughout the courthouse that we always say, and it just sucks that both of y'all are running for this one bench. that the Democrats didn't put you on another bench, frankly. I mean, that's how much I think everybody in the courthouse, in my opinion, thinks of both of you guys, is that we would love to see both of you on the bench. Unfortunately, only one of y'all can win this one. Talk about, and I'll start with you, Judge Hart. You've been on the bench. You've been through the transition here as we've come through life after Harvey, so to speak. What do you see going forward on the bench, and where you want to take your court, or the 230th if you stay on, and what are some of the challenges that you see over the next 4 years?
Well, obviously, the biggest challenge that we're going to continue to face is this displacement that we've been in. I think and I talked about this when I was on the show before. I was on the show right after Harvey happened, and I was talking about the changes and the things that we were trying to do. And this criminal justice community that we have, the judges, the prosecutors, the defense attorneys, everybody has done such an incredible job altogether, understanding the troubles that everyone is having in order to just get our normal work done as best we can, and the way they've all come together to work and bring some sort of normalcy back to the job that we all do has really been incredible, and everyone needs a pat on the back for that, from judges to prosecutors to defense attorneys to everybody that's involved. But we're going to have to continue to go through that while we wait on our building, right?
Yeah.
To be back. Now, depending on who you talk to, we're back in the building partially now. We could be back even more so by mid-year next year, but not fully functioning. It's going to be 2020 before it's probably fully functioning. And so that's going to take constant adjustments and patience on everyone's part. So that's going to be the challenge over the next few years, probably through most of this next 4-year term. So as a court, and the thing that I have a lot of pride in my court, is that we were able to basically keep functioning without missing a beat, really. I mean, obviously there was going to be some disruption, but without missing a beat, and able to continue on doing our business as normal as best we can. And we've been able to adapt with each change, with each different location that we've had to go through. We've been able to adapt every single time to do that, to provide some sort of normalcy for our court. For all the people that come to our court, there is at least one place that they know what's going to happen, they know how it's going to happen. It hasn't changed so much that they can't have that normalcy there. So we have to be able to continue to adapt. That's going to be the challenges, whatever that is, whatever the troubles may come, or obstacles that we have to adapt to those, and we'll continue to do that. And the hope is some of the lessons that we have learned and the new way we've had to do things through this Harvey displacement with doing work outside the courtroom, not having to do all your work inside the courtroom, making the lawyers on both sides meet, talk, discuss, whether it be by email or whatever, the new technology that you know, the 230th is the pilot court for the technology, and expanding on that to make, frankly, the lawyers' lives easier, hopefully, everyone's lives a little bit better of having to spend so much time in court, where when you come to court, it's actually something meaningful that's happening and going on for that setting for everybody involved, and then getting the cases to their resolution as soon as they can, not without, you know, shortchanging what needs to happen, the laws and justice, and making sure people's rights are met, but still getting to a resolution, whatever it is, as quickly as we can.
Yeah. Chris, you've been a defense lawyer for the last year, obviously, experiencing what's been going on from that side in a private practice setting. What are some of the things that, if you were to get the bench, that you would implement in terms of changes going forward, and from what you've seen in your perspective, that you would like to see handled differently?
Well, I appreciate the judge making the 230th normal, but since I announced for this race before Harvey, that's the one place I don't get to go. So I am.
That's funny.
I am dealing with the lack of normalcy everywhere else. And,
Right.
And like you guys, I'm bouncing around from building to building, courtroom to courtroom. One, obviously, you know, Harvey is something that no one was expecting, and you can't really be fully prepared for that. But some of the things that we're moving in the pipeline before that, it would be dealing with bonds and how bonds are implemented, and PR bonds and things like that. And I know that the court staffs and the judges have, especially in the federal, I mean in the district courts, have done a really good job as far as implementing some of the new guidelines for doing a risk-based assessment. There are still bottlenecks there, and those need to be addressed. That's where I think that you know, a lot of us folks who are running, that are, if we win, would be new to the bench, are looking to focus on alleviating those bottlenecks, whether it be you know, changing how magistrates are working, if that's necessary. And I tell you, get in there. You're not going to know.
Do you think this misdemeanor lawsuit will reach the felony courts?
No, I don't think it will. I don't think. I'll be honest. I think that the district courts have been very proactive on that. They have implemented, you know, a risk-based assessment that, to be honest, should have been happening in misdemeanor court long before it even hit the district courts, because there you're really dealing with folks that shouldn't be sitting in jail. Now you have a lot of those folks in district courts as well.
But you have a lot higher rate of violent crime in district
Right,
court
where
as well.
violent crime is there, that's going to show up on that risk assessment. Now there are still issues, I believe, with the risk-based system. One, I mean, it does have the I guess the component of age to a defendant. So a younger accused is going to be rated higher right off the bat.
Because they're young and reckless?
Well, because
Their brain's
age-
not developed. I mean,
Well, there are studies on that, and I agree with those studies. You know, there's empirical evidence that shows that young people will make worse decisions, and the decision you're concerned about is whether or not they're going to offend again, or whether or not they're going to show up to court. And I mean, studies show that they're less likely, and so they're ranked higher. And the fact that this still feeds into a cash bond system, which again, that's not something that district court judges can control. That has to be taken care of further north. But you know, that causes some of those bottlenecks, because again, you know, they're not deciding what type of supervision these young folks are going to need. They're deciding on how much money are they going to need.
I think there's a big proffer that says, right, this type of lawsuit won't ever reach the felony courts because of some of the changes or recognition that the felony courts have noticed and addressed. how was it? You've seen it. You've been presiding since then. Have you been a part of some of that change, and how do you see going forward the issue of bonds, period, in the felony setting?
Well, the whole issue with the misdemeanors and the lawsuit. First off, I mean, I can't speak too much to it.
Sure.
I mean, it's been 2002 since I was in a misdemeanor court. I mean, that's how long it's been, and so I don't have a lot of experience with the misdemeanor side of it and the issues that were going on there, at least since that time. There were steps being taken by the district courts prior to the lawsuit to do something about the bond situation, to try to have a better assessment tool for is the person going to reoffend or pick up a new case while on bond. Most importantly, how can we tell whether or not they are going to be dangerous to the public, and are they going to show up to court? Because really those are the two issues that we're trying to deal with, is are they a danger to society in any way, and are they going to show up to court? And so we have been taught as a district court, as a group of judges, 22 of us, have been talking for several years, looking for several different ways and new programs to implement to try to figure out a better way to do the system. And the PSA that we have now was something that we were talking about, that we finally started settling on that around the time, I believe, if I remember correctly, around the time the lawsuit was filed, somewhere around there. And then it didn't get implemented, and this is part of it. I'm not sure if this is what Chris was talking about, bottlenecks or not, but it didn't really get implemented until Harvey happened. Well, there's your big bottleneck. I mean, that is a serious issue, as y'all know, that especially since we can't see inmates as often as we used to. We used to be able to see them every day, and now it's, if we're lucky, every other week when that happens. So there are certainly issues there, and you have to be creative and innovative and available in order to try to help alleviate some of that's going on. So it's something that the district court judges have recognized. They've recognized it for a long time. I think, and this is, again, for all the judges, Republicans and Democrat district court judges, all recognizing that and working together to try to find a better way, even before the lawsuit. And so that's what we're doing now with the PSA. Is the PSA perfect? I would never say it's perfect, but it's a step, and we got to take steps if we're going to get anywhere, right?
Yeah. One of the things you talked about earlier was, about having people come to court and not wasting people's time. And I will say that over the last 8 to 10 years, what I've seen is more of a culture of, you show up to court, you're going to find a judge. It's not like some of the old days where judges didn't come till 11 o'clock or noon or not at all. I mean, we're regularly seeing the judges there, and especially now. I mean, now there's even more of an excuse to, well, heck, if I can't get my courtroom or something like that, well, then I'm just going to be, only available when people need me, and that's not the case. So, I mean, I see the culture shift there, but how, guys, can we better improve on not wasting people's time? Because as I've seen, while the judiciary has gotten better about being available, the district attorney's office seems to be falling off in their availability. And so what can you guys do to help with that process?
I think we have to waive appearances for people on bond at times. I mean, pre-indictment, you know it's going to take roughly 90 days to get to that point. You can reset it there, but you can also have status conferences in between. And those could be done via phone or whatever. You'd have those in the system, but your next appearance for the defendant, if they're on bond, would be at that point. And then from there, you put your docket order in place, much like you do in federal court. You know where about you'll be ready to go to trial, and you plan out there. In between, you don't need your defendant showing up. And I think that could alleviate some of the time. A lot of times, as a defense attorney, you'll roll into a court, you know nothing's going to be done. Half of your time there is done with client management, and then the other half is waiting for the judge if they show up. I don't know that Judge Hart is always available in this court, but there's a few courtrooms I could point out to you where that culture has not changed.
Right. No, I'm well aware of that.
What are some things that you've done in your court to address efficiency?
Well, y'all are correct and it's been the culture of the Harris County criminal justice community to get their work done in court, to not get their work done outside of court. It's been the culture my entire career here, and the lawyers get together and they talk in the courtroom. The defendants come to the courtroom, the lawyers talk, they exchange the evidence in the courtroom, they get their discovery in the courtroom. Sometimes nothing happens at all. Attorneys would just come in, they wouldn't talk to the judge, they wouldn't talk to the prosecutor, they wouldn't talk to anybody except the coordinator. They would just come in and get their reset.
Right.
And that is a waste of time. That's a tremendous waste of time. There has to be, and we have been able to do this. This is what I've tried to do with my docket system pre-Harvey. It's what I've continued to do post-Harvey. And the Harvey situation has caused a culture shift in the sense of, because we're having to have dockets at different times, or different courts are having dockets at different times, and it's causing people to have to do some work outside the courtroom. So for my particular court, it's designed to only have 4 settings over the time of a case's pendency until it gets to trial or resolved. And they're spread out in different increments of time depending on the type of case, when the case gets indicted. You know, the first setting is 30 days out, then 60 days, 120 days out. So you're having longer periods of time, ideally in between the times that they're coming to court. And so we don't have people coming to court every couple of weeks in our courtroom. And the idea is, and what I try to stress to the lawyers, is get your work done outside of the courtroom. And it's taken longer for some of that work to be done now. I was told just last Friday that it takes, I think, HPD 4 months to get a body cam or a dash cam downloaded.
Really?
That's how backed up they are. Wow. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
That's what I'm told on a case where they're needing another reset because they're at the end and we need to do something, and well, they're 4 months behind. And so that obviously causes some problems. That's certainly not the defense attorney's fault. It's not the defendant's fault. As long as the prosecutor is asking for it, has asked for it, it's not their fault. It's they're dependent on somebody else getting that done. But there's no sense in people coming to court when you're still waiting on that. So I agree with Chris that shouldn't happen when nothing is going to happen. So we need to be able, judges need to do this, we certainly do this, be open to, if nothing is going to happen, if the two sides are not ready to plea the case, dismiss the case, or set the case for trial, do an off-docket reset to move it out further. And it has theoretically become easier to do that now in the 230th. We do the electronic resets where, you know nothing's going to happen. You've talked to the prosecutor, you know that body cam is not in. You can generate the electronic reset at your office, have your client come, meet your client somewhere, have him sign it on your phone. Come to the courtroom, tell the prosecutor, ask them to sign it. Judge, we need another reset. Your client doesn't have to come. Judge, we need an off-docket reset. Here's why. Okay. How long is it going to take us? It's going to take us another 3 weeks. Okay. Then you get the date from the coordinator, and that alleviates that defendant having to come to court. You're going to be at the courthouse anyway. So that's a better use of a person's time if we do it that way. So when we do have the court settings, something is actually happening there. Whether it's a status conference with the judge to say, this is where we are, this is where we're headed, or I'm having an issue, I've subpoenaed this, they're not complying with the subpoena, that's when I need to get involved potentially. So it makes those settings meaningful for everybody involved.
One of the things that your court has been cutting edge on is the adaptation of other modern or progressive court programs. One of them being the electronic resets. One of them being the meaningful setting calendar. I know there's a word for, what is it? It's a managed control docket
well,
system?
Well, it's differentiated case management dockets. So it's when a case comes in, depending on what kind of case it is, it's given a track of basically, if it's a less than a gram PCS case, it should not theoretically take as much time as a murder case. So it's given different tracks for how long that case should theoretically be pending in a court. So that's what the differentiated case management system means. You differentiate the cases depending on what type they are. They fit in a certain category unless there's something unusual about it. If there is something unusual about that case, that look, it's a PCS less than a gram case, but it's involved, there's an aggravated robbery involved in this somehow, well, then we just move it off of that track onto another track.
As a judge, how are you picking these programs, or did you just develop it all in your mind and then said go forth? I mean, no. I mean, how, like, are there? I assume that there's program, like you just didn't do. Talk to us about doing that.
Well, there again, the district courts, even before I got there, I mean, I certainly can't take credit for it. Before I got there, the courts were looking at ways to do things better. Just like I said, this culture of coming to court every couple of weeks and nothing happened. I mean, I heard my entire career, especially from defense attorneys, like there's got to be a better way to do this. And so sure enough, and Judge Hill actually, when she was on the 230th and she was the administrative judge for the criminal district courts, was seeking a better way to do it. And so them with justice management and some of the other district courts and with the DA's office, and I know HCCLA was involved also, basically started searching the country for what are different types of docket management systems are out there to see if we can do something better here. I remember I was still at the DA's office at the time, and we were told about it. This might be happening, it might be changing, and then we have the 2008 election where a bunch of judges were gone. We had some new judges come in, and it kind of went to the wayside. And then it just so happens that Judge Guinea and Judge Patrick were elected. I get appointed. We all basically start at the same time in January. At that time, Judge Brown was like, "Hey, let's revisit this." So they came in. The people who I guess designed the program came in, presented it to us. They wanted some higher docket number courts and some low docket number courts to try it out. We met with HCCLA at the time. Chris Tritico was there, Todd DuPont was there, Carmen Rowe was there.
I remember that.
Yeah, we had representatives from the DA's office, and so we kind of worked on it to tailor it from what these other jurisdictions were doing to us. And we started doing it. It was tough, it was rough in the beginning, which was about the time that Chris saw it in action. It was in the beginning stages there.
And I did think it was rough.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough on everybody. It was rough on me. It was rough on the staff. Certainly it was rough on the lawyers. It was rough. But we've caught our groove on that now. And one of the things that, if we try to take these positives out of Harvey, is other courts have recognized the benefits to this system. The 185th was doing it when Kristen got appointed after being off the 179th, where they were doing it, and she gets appointed in the 232nd. She's doing it. She started doing it again. Judge Cabanis in the 248th was doing it. And because of this situation with Harvey and other courts seeing how we have been able to keep rocking right along, other courts are starting to do it now also, the 178th, the 180th, and now other courts, we've had a team come in to evaluate all the courts and how they're run to try to make them more efficient. And the proposal that they gave to all the district court judges, to all 22 of us, was essentially the system, this was recently, like within the last couple of months, was essentially the system that those of us who are doing this DCM docket are running already. And so a lot of the other courts are looking at going to it also.
Has the data shown that there is better judicial efficiency and economy with the types of dockets that you're running?
Yeah, and that's what this group found when they did a analysis of all the dockets. And by every statistical measure that you can get from the clerk's office, the most efficiently run courts are the courts that are doing this system or had been doing this system. The 185th, the 248th, and the 230th. And the 262nd is in there also. She doesn't run this type of court, but she's similar in how she conducts her court. We're the fourth lowest. We are the fourth lowest overall dockets. We're the 4 lowest trial dockets.
As a group?
Yeah, like
wow.
Each one of us, we bounce back and forth
Sure.
between who's first, second, third, fourth, things of that nature. The number of settings to disposition, the age of the cases, all of those. These 4 courts are, by those statistical measures, the most efficiently run courts, and that's what this group basically told us. I mean, they didn't come out and say, hey, y'all are awesome. They didn't say that during the meeting, but they just provided us with the numbers, and you can look at the numbers and see, okay, these courts are run efficiently. This tells us how, if we do these things in all these other courts, how much better that we could have our system.
We got our first phone call of the evening coming in. I want to remind everybody we got the phone lines open, 713-807-1794. We also have Twitter up at HCCLA_TV, but let's take our first phone call. Hello, thanks for calling Reasonable Doubt.
Oh, good evening, guys. So not to switch topics, I think efficiency of dockets is very important, but I also think that speaking about clients and or defendants is, the reason these buildings are built. And I feel that that is really the most important part. And so I'm just curious what the candidates have to say, and this is directed more to Chris as kind of the unknown. What is things that you're wanting to see? I think you come from a unique perspective, having been a prosecutor and now a defense attorney, so you see the clients and the defendants. And what are you looking to do in your courtroom regarding those people and, kind of focusing in on that aspect of your job? And I'll hang up and listen.
Every case is unique and individual. I know we talk about different tracks and how we try to keep things as efficient as possible, but people aren't mechanical. Every single person that steps foot into a courtroom is going to have a different story. Every case is going to have different facts. The 3 of us who've done the criminal defense work, we know that. We have to run our practices that way. Every one of our clients is going to be treated as an individual. That's because that's our role. Our role as criminal defense attorneys is to ensure justice for a single solitary person. And that's very different than the role of a prosecutor who's there seeking justice as a whole for the state or for society. But it is the judge that has to deliver that justice. And ultimately the judge should be able to treat each and every case individually as well. When we look at some of the problems that I have with the new risk-based assessment tool that's being used is it does focus in on trying to gear everyone into a box, and I don't think that's necessarily the way it can go. there has to be some human element in there as well. For that, I believe we have to, at the front end, empower our magistrates to use, more judgment in how they are viewing these assessments when they come in. And as far as bottlenecks go, I mean, you guys probably have clients like I do that, they're arrested. In the past, when it was just cash, if they had the money, they get out pretty quickly. Now they have to go through this entire assessment program before they are even given a bond. And that's one of the bottlenecks I think that the system has, because we have several different problems with indigent clients, and then with clients who do have some means. And we seem to be, again, putting these into a similar box, and again, they're not the same box. They have a different solution for them. So I believe that the judges have to be more flexible. I think the way we're assessing people on the front end has to be flexible, and throughout. That's why I spoke about the possibility of on-the-phone status conferences between attorneys. That's something that where you would be able to deal with, hey, we're not going to be able to get to trial. We don't have the evidence in from HPD or the sheriff's office that we need. We don't need that attorney to come in to conference with the judge. We have a prosecutor there, or we can get a prosecutor on the phone. We get the defense attorney on the phone as well. We can do a status conference that way. And with the technology that we have, and yes, Judge Hart is one of the pioneers on this, with the electronic reset, you don't have to be there at all.
One of the things, I went to Houston County today on a Mada, and we went up there just to say, Judge, we need more time. Sorry, I woke up at 5 to get here. Like, can we go now? And Judge was like, granted, the judge said, yes, of course you can go. Thanks. It would have been so good if I could have just called in. Because we're good lawyers, we had already conferenced with the prosecutor. We had already done these things. And granted, I'm the out-of-county lawyer coming in, and it inconvenienced me, but I also think that something like that, and I've seen it done in Fort Bend, I've seen it done in a lot of civil cases where the conference is all online. I mean, it's all over the phone, and that's, I don't know, I think that's a good idea.
Well, that can certainly happen. And the reason I use that example of the lawyer coming by, certainly for us, we're there every day. That's why I say come by. Look, I'm there every day. I'm one of the first judges that gets there every day. I stay probably longer than most people, because I want to make sure that if the lawyers do have something, if they're there, then and they need a judge to talk to, that they have somebody that they can come talk to. One of the prosecutors is there every day. So if you're there, if you're in the building, if you're across the hall in the 248 and you've got a case on my docket the next day and you don't want your client to come by, what's the harm in walking across the hallway? That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. The other thing, though, and what Chris is talking about, is I tell people all the time, email me. Make sure we're all CC'd on the email. Y'all talk. If there's an issue, all you gotta do is email me. Email me. I get my email in my office. I get it on my phone. I know how to log in from home and do it.
And I think that's a great point, because the judges now are using email to communicate directly with lawyers. I mean, I had a situation arise in Austin where the state was not ready. They had not filed their response to my motion yet, and we were set for a hearing, and we were 2 days before, and we still needed. She wanted to see the lawyers. I said, well, can we excuse the client? And she said, yeah, just do this, and we did everything by email. And the lawyers still went up because she wanted to have a conference with the lawyers and talk about, okay, I want to talk to you face to face, and get a sense of what's going on. But, I understand you have to drive up from Houston, but I also want to see you guys face to face and have a conference, not just a conference call. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
the judges are using emails.
And sometimes you do need that face to face, and sometimes it's better to do the face to face, especially if you need the judge's input or direction on how to proceed or where to proceed. It's better, I think, to do that face to face. But again, that's for those of us who are here or down there every day. The out-of-county lawyers, all they have to do is contact us. Contact us and tell us what's going on. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a defendant from Dallas, lawyer from Dallas, had an issue. All they had to do was contact us. And one of the cool things that we're working on, that I do want to mention here, since we're talking about resets and things of that nature, that will, again, hopefully make things better, is whenever a lawyer signs up on a case, a defendant has been charged with something, lawyer signs up on the case, the lawyers can log on through the district clerk's website and they have access to that, right? Well, we're trying to develop a way now to where whenever, if a lawyer wants to, they can request a log on for their client that's limited for just that case. And so if you are going to get a reset, you don't even necessarily have to go out and meet your client to get a reset form. You can call them up, say, hey, go to this website, here's your log on and sign this reset. So they can do it from their home or their phone. It's all about the efficiency and seriously, not wasting anyone's time.
Yeah.
Where do the courts get? This has to cost money, doesn't it, to search for the program, to implement the program? Where does that come from, or does it really cost anything?
Well, the courts have IT people. The district clerk's office have IT people. The DA's office have IT people. There is a technology committee that's Judge Ellis is the head of, who he works for county technology now, in addition to doing the mental health docket. That has a couple members of the defense bar, Damon Parrish and Joe Venus are on it. I'm on it. There's the DA's office, their technology people, the clerk's technology people, probation technology people, they're all on it. And so it's a collective effort on everyone's part to, when these issues come up, just like this issue with the reset and trying to develop this program, it came up because a lawyer came to me and said, I've got a client, well, we want to do the electronic reset. I've got a client that's in another county. How do I get them to sign it? Well, we figured out a way to make that work right now where you don't have to get the signature on the reset, but it is a little bit more cumbersome. So I go back to the committee, we talk with Damon, we talk with Joe, we talk with everybody on there. What are some of your ideas? And then we give it to the technology people because they're the ones who know how to do this. I don't know. And then they come back and they say, hey, this is what we come up with. What do you think? And we all give our input on it. And okay, that sounds like a great idea. Let's see if we can get it to work. So then the technology people who are already there, who are already knowledgeable in technology and developing these programs, who already work for the county and the various agencies, are able to sit down, put their heads together, and figure out how this is going to work.
We spent a lot of the program tonight talking about court efficiency, how to make things easier on lawyers, how things are going to function. But I bet there's a large segment of people watching who are
bored.
Well, who are the actual,
the
real big stakeholders in this, and that would be people who are either charged in the system or have family members who are charged in the system. And obviously this bench was held by an African American female before you got it, and now we have two white males running for it. So I think that one of the questions that people are going to want to know is, yeah, efficiency, great. We were talking about the docket numbers and everything earlier, but how does that equate to justice for me, especially if I'm a minority in this court? How am I going to ensure that I'm getting a fair shake, that I'm going to have a fair trial, that I'm going to have a fair process in this?
Well,
I'll give both of y'all the chance to answer it.
From the beginning, my thoughts on efficiency is, hey, that's great and all, but it all has to take a backseat to justice. Again, it is the prosecutor who seeks justice, the defense attorneys who ensure it for the individual, but the judge has to deliver justice, and it has to be one case at a time. And we have to have that mindset and the ideology that each person is going to be different. They can't be treated as a mechanical cog to be put into this lane or that. They all have to be taken in. And so you have to have a great deal of compassion and empathy. And the way the way I've developed empathy is by having a diverse experience, and I think that is key, because the people that we have in front of us are very diverse mix. This is the most diverse city in the nation. You have people from every socioeconomic level that walks into the courtroom. You have people from every race, every country that walks in there, and having a more diverse background or experiences with many diverse people, whether it be working in blue-collar jobs with them, or having stood beside them when they're accused, or they have a family member that's in trouble. That's an important thing. And as a judge, while you're sitting there, you have to have that with every person, and know and listen to what their story is, because that's the only way you're going to find what is different about their case and how justice should be applied differently towards that person. Each judge has to be pragmatic, and that's even more important at a trial level. There's an old joke, I forget who told me this, but it's 3 judges go duck hunting. You have the Supreme Court justice, the appellate justice, and the trial judge. And they go out in the woods, and their permit just allows them to hunt ducks. First flock of birds flies over, the Supreme Court justice raises up his shotgun, but he lowers it and he looks at the other 2 and he says, "I'm not sure that meets the definition of a duck as intended by our founders." So a second flock of birds flies over. The appellate justice raises the shotgun, but then she lowers it and says, "I'm going to have to consult with 2 other appellate justices before I determine if that's a duck." Third flock of birds flies over, and they hear blam. The 2 justices look back, and the trial judge standing there with his smoking shotgun, and he says to them, "Sure as hell hope that was a duck." That's the pragmatism that a trial judge has to have. They have to be able to make those decisions. They have to be able to apply justice individually.
I thought you were going to say Dick Cheney.
I'm a Democrat.
Look, I do want to make this clear. The bulk of what we've been talking about the efficiency is we want to make the court system run better, work better. We've all been talking about it, and Chris has been talking about it also, about not wasting people's time down there at the courthouse. We have to talk about court efficiency if we're going to do that. But that does not mean that I am overlooking or not paying attention to the individuality of every single case and every single person that gets charged with a case in my courtroom. That is something that I take great pride in that, look, this is the way the system works. But as I said, even when we differentiate the types of cases, if there's something different about those cases, it has to be brought to our attention. That's the job of the lawyers. And then I can, using my discretion based on what I've been told, make changes to that. Yeah, we have this PSA system that we use now, and we have a bond schedule based on that, and we need to follow it as best we can in order to see if it's going to work or not, but you never make that a substitute for the individuality of every case. And yes, an African-American female held this bench before I did. I'm a white male, I'm a Republican. People think that they know what that means. People don't know what that means. I grew up in a small East Texas town to a single mother who worked 6 days a week, 14, 15 hours a day to put food on the table. First time I could get a job, I got a job, whether that be mowing yards on my own just to try to help out, or going to work at the local Kmart. And it didn't matter. It was a small community, but it was a community that was made up of white folks, African-American folks, Hispanic folks. And you know what we all cared about? We cared about whether we were going to win that football game on Friday night when we were all playing football together. We ate at each other's homes. We went through the same things with each other that people go through with each other. I was the first person in my family to go to college, go beyond college. I've got people that have suffered gravely with addictions in my family. I had a cousin who was murdered in prison He was in prison because of his addictions. He was murdered in prison because of his addictions. I've seen the effects that that has on people's lives. And I know in my belief, my personal beliefs and my faith, I know that people, some people, need second chances. They need help. And if I can give it to them, if I can see in that individual, and that's what you look at, the individual, that that's the type person, that this person needs a chance and they want it, then you got to be able to recognize that and give it to them. That does not mean that if you come before me and the facts of the case dictate to me or tell me based on my judgment in the 21 years I've been doing this, that they need to go to prison, and maybe for a long time, I'll do it. But if whatever it is in their background that I see in them, you know, nonviolent cases and things of that nature, that this person wants help, needs help, wants to change, and if I can be a part of that, it's one of the best things that we can do as a judge. A couple of years ago, I have this CTI program, Change Through Intervention, where people who I try to take an active role where they see me in addition to their probation officers. So I can take an active role and I get to know these people, and I, whether they're doing well or not doing well, I grow to care about them just like they're my own family. A couple of years ago, I was taking my kids to that Marvel Live show, right?
Sure.
We're leaving the show. I'm just in t-shirt and shorts or whatever, and I hear Judge Hart, which always kind of worries you a little
A
bit
little
when you're out in
bit.
public. Right?
Yeah.
What's going on? And I turn around and there's this young Hispanic kid, and I say young, he's probably about 28 or so, and he's holding the hand of his daughter, and they're coming up towards me, and there's two Hispanic male and female behind him, and he comes up to me and he says, "I just wanted to tell you, I was on your CTI program." I recognized him. I knew him because you take an active role in these people's lives. "You saved my life. I'm here with my daughter because of you." His parents behind him, his dad in particular, stuck out his hand to shake my hand, tears in his eyes, and said, "You gave us our son back." I didn't do it. I just gave the kid the opportunity because he was at a point in his life where he did not want to live that life anymore.
What was the inspiration behind this? I mean, behind you deciding to, at some point in your life, you had to make a decision that you were not going to stay in that East Texas town. You were going to go off, and at some point you were going to do things to help and change people's lives. What was that? What's the inspiration behind it?
Well, I mean, it's just a process. You know, what I just finished saying about that is you can't beat that feeling.
Right.
You can't beat it. It's one of the most proud things that I have and I do as a judge of this court is that program and stories like that, and there are a lot of them. What it is, I mean, I don't know. I always intended on going back to that small East Texas town, but I was here. I went to the DA's office here. I worked here. I developed friends here. I developed a career here. I have family here. My kids are here. This is my home. This is my community. And like I said, you know, we try not to bring religion in at all to what we do, but it's still a part of who I am. And, you know, I believe in redemption, and I believe in resurrection, and I believe in that. And if you can help a person be a better, more productive member of our community, this is our community. And if we can help a person get out of whatever it was that they were in, that they can be a productive member of our community, their community, it makes the community better. And where it comes from, I don't know, but I believe it deeply that it can work.
What about you on your end? We're running a little bit out of time, but
Yeah.
we have a little bit of time. But what are some of your inspirations that for running for a judge?
Well, for me, it was being a prosecutor, being a criminal defense attorney. It's both of those experiences. I used to, but when I started at the DA's office, I had a very different outlook on life than I have right now. You probably have seen those offense reports where you're reading that and you're like, this doesn't look right. This is a driving while black situation. When I was younger, I would not have believed that existed. It was being a prosecutor that showed me that, hey, this really happens. This is something that we see on a daily basis. It was training young prosecutors to be in situations where, you know, maybe a judge is doing something that this strikes you as unfair, and as a prosecutor you thought, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be, you know, seeking justice here. And this happened to me with a young prosecutor. I was in a DWI case with our friend Tyler Flood. He had a complaint about the 15-minute wait period, and I think we would have prevailed on his motion had he had a hearing on it. The judge in the court refused to even allow him to talk about it, overruled his objection immediately. And I asked that young prosecutor, I was like, look, this is not right. This is not fair. We win this case without it. You know, if it were me, I would stand up in front of that jury and say, get rid of this. If the only reason you're going to send this guy with a criminal record, put him on probation, is this test result, let him go home, because it's not right. Experiences like that. She actually did that, was very brave, and I was one of my prouder moments. And she was excellent. She's a defense attorney now, Akila Basie, but it was a great trial story for her, and I was just happy to be a part of it. It's being a criminal defense attorney, and you're standing beside someone and their family, and that you're the only thing there for them. And not every judge has a story like Judge Hart.
You think you got the skin to be a judge?
Yeah, I have it.
Woo-wee. You guys make some tough decisions. You're shooting ducks out there, and
Absolutely.
I hope it was a duck.
Absolutely. A lot of times we hear a term, calling balls and strikes, and I appreciate the sentiment of that, because it's all about.
That's only in trial. I mean, you know, being a judge requires a lot more than that.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're not in a trial.
And you know, you want somebody that's not playing for one team or the other, and
Right.
I get that.
Yeah.
But it is, every decision has to be that exploration of the philosophical underpinnings of justice itself. Some decisions are easier than others, but a lot of them aren't.
Yeah.
And there are times when you're forced, because of the law, because of precedent, because of canons of interpretation, you're gonna be doing something that maybe you don't think is right.
Mm-hmm.
But a just application of the law to those facts, you have to do it. I know for a fact that's going to happen to me when I take his bench.
The trash talking starts in the last 30 seconds.
When I retire, you can have it.
I appreciate that.
Maybe.
We'll talk in a couple weeks.
Comes as we start to wrap up. This has been a great show.
It was awesome,
I
man.
really appreciate Judge Brad Hart joining us, and Chris Morton. You guys have been great. I really, you know, like I said at the beginning, I wish we could have both of you, keep keep you on and add you on.
I wish
to
there
the
were another
bench.
way.
I wish there were another way, but this is the system we have, and you know, good luck to both of you in the next couple weeks here. I know early voting, we've had a huge turnout here. It's been great to see people getting out of the polls. And we got the last of our shows next week. We're going to have Judge Kristen Guinea and her challenger, Josh Hill, join us, which is going to be what we think the complete love fest next week for the candidates. But, you know, we appreciate y'all tuning in. We appreciate you watching our shows on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. And what we hope to do is really educate y'all and let you see the candidates, get to know them, so that when you go to the polls, you actually know what the person stands for, and it's not just a name. You see a face, and you know what their substance is. So I hope we're doing that job. If you have some comments, you have some questions that you want to see us ask on this show, send us a message on Facebook, send us a message on Twitter. We'll get it on the show, and you can call in next week. It's the last show before the election. So, you know, for our guest, for my co-host, good night, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Chris.